Hi, I'm Tom Stephenson, and welcome to Construction Project Management Tips, where we work to make you smarter, better, and faster at managing your construction projects. As we build this community, please get involved, subscribe, click notifications. If you like the video, click like. And especially if you have comments or you have ideas about future videos or you have some experiences that you like to contribute to the community, please feel free to add that in. Today's topic, we're going to be looking at change directives. Change directives, sometimes with people that haven't been working in the construction industry that long, they're not exactly sure exactly what it is, how it differs from a change order, some of the other acronyms and abbreviations that we run into in construction too, how does that fit into everything as well? So we'll kind of run through those areas, especially focusing in on change directives. Now I do want to point out that this isn't a legal opinion. If you really want specifics on a legal opinion and contract, you really need to consult a specialist in that area, somebody that, not just a regular lawyer when we're talking about construction. I think you need to get somebody that specializes in construction law. I've jogged with a very good friend of mine who is a judge for almost his whole career besides being a lawyer, and I had plenty of opportunities to ask him a lot of legal questions along the way. And my daughter's now a lawyer, and I could sum up the answer in 2 words that I've gotten over the years, and it depends. So they really have to see the contract, the nuances of the contract, the evidence or documentation of the project. That's why so much about what we talk about on this site has to do with documentation, having really good documentation. But as a general aspect, you really do need to know what your contract does say and what the terms generally mean as applicable to your jurisdiction. You know, you may be watching this from a different country and it might have a different interpretation than I'm necessarily giving you on this particular video. But you do find that there are certain commonalities that contracts do have. So hopefully this will give you some insight into your particular jurisdiction and what's going on, and to ask further questions. A change directive is something that is provided, it's used generally when there's not enough time to go through the whole process of getting a change order. Change order is when something has changed in the contract that's going to require extra money or extra time and extra money. So a change order comes in those cases, but often we need to get the work done very quickly and we don't have time to fully price it out. In those cases where we have to come up with a costing and we have to figure out, what's the impact of this on the schedule, and perhaps, insert a fragmented network into the schedule to see its impact. Change directive is a tool to make sure that the work is continuing on. Otherwise, it could delay the project. And then at a later point where you've now had time to assess the cost and the impacts on time, then it could be made into a change order, which is now signed and agreed to by both parties. So really it's a method of getting the work to continue even though there's been some sort of change in it, and make sure that it doesn't get all bunched up in the project, and that's important. Sometimes it can be used where there's a lack of agreement between the owner on price and or time. Those cases, it's not such a friendly sort of invite. It's more cumbersome for the contractor. Again, you have to look at what the contract says, the type of contract it is, and whether that is valid in those cases. But it can be placed like a directive, an order to go ahead and proceed with the work. It is acknowledging that that work is changing in some way, shape, or form when that's the case. So I would keep that in mind as well. But you do often find that we need to keep the work flowing, and we want to have some written assurance that this directive, it's acknowledged that it's a change going forward, and that the pricing will be clarified and the time impact will be clarified at some point. So again, looking at what those impacts are and how it affects your project are important. Now, the other thing that we can think of, so I've kind of already mentioned this, change directive versus a change order. And a change order is prepared by the consultant, it's signed by the contractor and owner, clarifying the price and time schedule changes for the project. So that's like really good when you have a signed change order. Also, a claim, I didn't mention that, but a claim is an unresolved change. So that's when you hear that term coming into play, a claim just means that it hasn't been resolved as a change or a change order. It might be then at that point made into a change directive if it hasn't been settled, like I said, as the previous example where some change directives might move to. And again, it depends, are you in the US, are you in Canada, which document you're using, etc. So make sure you consult legal advice on that. But really, when we think about change directive, it is getting that work to proceed so it's not encompassing or stalling out the project from that perspective. Now, there's a few other abbreviations that we run into, CCN, PCN, PC, CCO, and these really are not the same thing at all. Contemplated change notice, these are all different ways of saying more or less the same thing. This is not a change to the contract. These are things that you're thinking about, the client may be thinking about, or the contractor is pricing out. So basically it can be reviewed to see what the cost impacts are, the time impacts are. So the words contemplated, proposed, is really sort of spelling out that this is not a change. This is something that is being discussed, it's being drafted, it's being priced, it's being scheduled. And you see these different abbreviations, maybe even other ones that I'm not aware of, used all the time, but from a contract purpose, it's not that point of view. We're thinking about CD, change directive, or CO, change order, and getting that signed off by the parties that are involved so that at least we know we can proceed, or change order, we know we can proceed, and these are the cost and time impacts that we'll have on the project. And overall, what do we want to do? We want to make sure that the project flows well. If we're excavating and we come across something that is this condition that we didn't expect, we may have a RFI, we want a request for information or a request for interpretation. We're just looking at that at this stage, but we want some information back. We may determine very clearly that this is not part of the contract, and so then we're going with a consultant, maybe looking at then proceeding with a change directive to keep the excavation moving for now. In the meantime, you're costing it out, you're seeing the full extent of the impact, and that could be then moved into a change order. But it didn't, stop the project in its tracks and prevent us from moving ahead in that case. A lot of projects are very, very time sensitive, and this is one of the methodologies that can be used to assist in not slowing things down. So hopefully that gives you a good understanding of change directive, a bit of understanding. We can spend another video on change orders and these CCN, PCN, PC, CCO acronyms, which are not, that aspect. It's really looking at what is something that we want to cost out that might be just placed into a change order once it's accepted, reviewed. There may be some dialogue that goes back and forth, some clarifications through that process. So I'm Tom Stephenson, wishing you a wonderful day, and please don't forget to click subscribe and notifications, thumbs up, comments, all appreciated, and we'll see you next time. Bye for now.